CNN News.
I've been hanging on to this article for a while. I actually was planning to do it next week since next week will be the last week of Black History Month. However, I think given this discourse that I've been seeing a lot regarding, organizing and all that, and kind of in relation to that last week into the weekend, I figured this might be a good time to kind of bring this out now. Um, so this article is actually from The Guardian. We have issued, sometimes there could be some gems from time to time, but other times they can be dog shit. So this article is written by Eric Morrison-Smith. So he writes about this Black History Month, the leaders of the past can teach us real resistance. So he's going to feature 3 different revolutionaries, one of them Kwame, and from a clip that we've played on the show before. Actually kind of surprised he featured Ture, to be quite honest with you. But what I was able to do is kind of embed some videos of those people in terms, and now this could be something I might go into a little deeper with those people maybe another time, but at least kind of giving you an awareness of who they are about in terms of what Eric has mentioned about them. So, but he continues, movements are not born fully formed. They begin when ordinary people decide to act. So he writes, nearly 60 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. posed a question that still haunts us. In his final book, published just a year before his death, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? He argued that we are standing at a crossroads. One path leading towards chaos, deepening poverty, violence, and repression, while the other required us to collectively choose and build community. Too few of us answered his call. At times, we chose distraction, comfort, and complacency. At others, we turn away from the violence of this world inflicted on the country. At others, we turn away from the violence of this country inflicted on the world, allowing the corruption of those in power to harden and accumulate. We can blame politicians or corporations, or those who remain neutral, but the truth is, we all carry some level of responsibility. And still, the challenge remains. Are we ready to do what is necessary to build community, to protect one another, to stop outsourcing our power? This Black History Month, we must go beyond the passive commemorations that have become commonplace in our culture. We need to go beyond the hashtags, curated quotes, safe tributes, and parades, and learn about how change was actually made and take responsibility for continuing it.
Okay.
So he starts with, if we want a model for that responsibility, the activist Ella Baker is essential. Often working behind the scenes, she helped build some of the most important organizations of the civil rights movement. One of her most enduring contributions was her insistence on building strong people so that they would no longer need strong leaders. Baker, who died in 1986, believed that people must organize where they are, in the neighborhoods, workplaces, and schools, not by waiting for charismatic saviors, but by developing leadership from below. She understood that young people and poor and working class communities already possessed knowledge, strength, and leadership, and for that those capacities, when nurtured, could be mobilized for real social change. So here's a clip of her.
Okay.
Short
In
clip.
Puerto Rico.
Yep.
I gotta clear my cookies. They've done this. See this nonsense? Used to have pause right here, and then like for some reason, like I gotta clear my cookies before it like comes back. I don't know. It's something YouTube's like rolling out. Dumb. But anyway,
Friends, brothers, and sisters in the struggle for human dignity and freedom, I am here to represent the struggle that has gone on for 300 or more years, a struggle to be recognized as citizens in a country in which we were born. I have had about 40 or 50 years of struggle Ever since a little boy on the streets of Norfolk called me a nigger, I struck him back. I had to learn that hitting back with my fist one individual was not enough. It takes organization. It takes dedication. It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to be done. A nice gathering like today is not enough. You have to go back and reach out to your neighbors who don't speak to you. And you have to reach out to your friends who think they are making it good and get them to understand that they, as well as you and I, cannot be free in America or anywhere else where there is capitalism and imperialism until we can get people to recognize that they themselves have to make the struggle and have to make the fight for freedom every day in the year, every year, until they win it. Thank you.
I mean, just kind of high key. I appreciate the fact that she said that, I guess it was a kid, called her the N word. She's like, no, I hit him.
Yeah, elbow, knee. Looking, take it to him. Like, my only issue, and me and you have talked about this a bunch. You know, have you heard of the term Barnum statement?
Yes.
Okay. Like, used a lot in things like horoscopes and religion and all that fun stuff, right? Fortune cookies, right? Things that are vague enough that it applies to anyone, right?
Right.
Like, I think of the word organization that way. It's like far too vague and used by so many that, like, when I hear it, I just go like, yeah, but what does that mean? Like, the minute I hear that, it just feels like a platitude. Like, and she probably knows what, and part of the problem is too, is I think a lot of this comes from a time where that was far more possible, you know? I think that's the key. I think it's much more difficult now to have the type of organization that isn't as exploitable and controllable. Because, like, people are organizing now. There's plenty of organizations you could be a part of right now. And, like, I don't see them capable of doing a lot. Like, pressuring politicians isn't working. Like, there's some stuff you could do mutual aid wise that might be helpful, you know, but that's a band-aid to a problem, you know?
Right. But I think even in that, that's the issue, because people, and she said it, people, well, or at least she kind of hinted at it. It's like, you have to talk to your neighbors. How often do you talk to your neighbors?
Yeah.
I have a couple who bought this.
Your upstairs neighbors, right?
Upstairs neighbors. I don't talk to them. Like, no.
Go ask for a cup of sugar, dude.
I don't know. I don't know anyone in my name. Like, and I live on a short block. Like, I don't know anyone on my block. Like, I know who they are. I don't know their names. You know, like, I don't know the kids. There are a few kids on my block, but I don't talk to them. Like, I remember growing up, I knew who my neighbors were.
Right.
Like, I knew them by name. And even back then, because there were a lot of kids on my block, like, I remember playing out in the street, and I never had to worry about anything, because even if we were playing in the street without adults present, adults were around. So, but yeah, we don't have that anymore, because everyone is just so busy and so insulated that the term organizing means, well, I think we have to redefine organizing in terms of what that means today, which I don't think we do. I think we kind of, in a lot of ways, romanticize it in terms of what was
very much so.
And especially, like, if you're thinking about the civil rights era.
I don't know if it's entirely possible. And it's fine to not know if that's the case. You know, I think there's a lot of things that could, like, go wrong especially with the way our intelligence agencies work right now. But
Right.
having said that, I still think things like mutual aid. I was talking to you last night about like renters unions, literally going to the people in your building and being like, "Hey, here's our problems. They're not being dealt with. What do we do?" You know, because that's just knocking on your apartment building, like,
Right.
you know. So, like, to me, that kind of organizing is still possible, like at the
But I think
hyper
even
local
just
level.
right. I think just even I think we talked about this last night, kind of going off of that, because I mentioned because for those of you who live in the Northeast, we had at least like Northeast corridor basically, like we had a major snowstorm here a few weeks ago. And now the snow is pretty much not gone entirely, but it's clear again mostly. But they hadn't taken out our trash in like 3 weeks. Like I think today was probably the first time in about 3 weeks that our trash was taken out. And so something that we talked about was the kind of talking about organizing that way. It's kind of like, hey, council, like
Yeah.
my trash has not been moved, you know? And actually, funny enough, even right now, like in DC, people are complaining about their electric bills. Now, fortunately, I'm kind of glad because I thought I was the only one. I got a $300 bill for this month. I live in a 750 square foot apartment. The most I've ever paid for this apartment to cool or heat is $100. Any point in the year. And like this past month, I got a $300 bill. And I keep my thermostat at around 78, at least when I'm here. And I turn that mess off when I'm not home. So the
Right.
idea so literally I thought I was the only, but what I'm seeing online is that people are complaining in DC. It's like, why is my like electric bill so damn high?
Data
So
centers is going to be part of the
yeah,
problem, you
right.
know?
Um, so but that could be a way to organize around like if people care, like around that issue. Now, granted, this is kind of what I'm seeing happening on Twitter, but but I think we need to redefine what organizing means in terms of this modern era, which we don't have the answers for. Um, but I think you're
Indy
right. I
said
think it's just
78. Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I'd die. I'd be like, no, we're going to have to bump that down. You know, we're going to have to
what
get
do
it
you mean
down to
78?
72. Like, you know, so
What do you mean 78?
because you said you had it at 78, you had your temperature set at 78. You
Not 78.
madman. You're like a cat. You got to have it like
68.
fucking
68.
tropical temperature. You know, your
No,
inner
no,
Bajan needs
68.
it. Like,
No, 68. That's what I
okay.
meant. 68.
68, much better.
68.
Much better.
68.
Oh my god, dude, 78. I die. I die now.
Sorry, Eddie. Yeah.
Like,
68.
oh, misery. Like, that's 80. That's 80. 78 is 80 degrees. You know.
Right.
Anyway, you meant 6'7". That's what you meant.
Yeah.
You know. So, anyway, 8-9. You little shits. All right. You got a little more of this, right?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll get into this. That legacy of Elevator is alive today in organizations like Students Deserve in Los Angeles. This youth-led group has organized students from across race to win historic victories, including a $30 million reduction to school police funding and a reinvestment of those resources into a Black student achievement plan. These gains were not granted out of goodwill of elected officials. They were won through struggle and discipline, student-led organizing. Just as important, Students Deserve understands that struggle does not end with a win. The organization continues defending these victories against white supremacist backlash, holding the principle Baker taught us. Responsibility is ongoing, the struggle is eternal. So moving on to the next
Yes.
person. That same clarity lives in Fannie Lou Hamer, who fought for civil rights, voting rights, and women's rights in the 1960s and 70s, and made it clear that neither wealth nor formal education were prerequisites for resistance. At some point, being sick and tired of being sick and tired had turned into action. That spirit remains today in organizations like Pillars of the Community, which organizes with people often written off as unorganizable, currently and formerly incarcerated people and others most affected by state violence. Pillars lead police watch efforts, coordinate legal defense work, and, when historic floods devastated parts of California in 2024, provided disaster relief when government response fell short. This is Hamner's legacy in practice. People deemed disposable by the system decided to protect one another anyway. Prayer was never enough. Today, scrolling isn't either. At some point, we must decide to do everything within our power to become free and recognize that our freedom is bound up with the freedom of others. So here's a clip. I believe this was, so this is at the 1964
Mr.
DNC
Chairman.
convention. So she spoke, she
Go ahead.
spoke here. And basically, she was calling out the Democrats for making it difficult for Black people to vote. So, so we'll just listen to her, and then we'll continue.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. That then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.
I mean, this was in 1960.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
60 years later, and we're still talking about this bullshit. Like, it it's just like, what are we doing wrong? Like, I mean, I watch these clips, and they were not that long ago. We should have made tons of more progress than we are, and yet
Yeah, there's
we
reasons
haven't
for
really
that.
moved.
Well, this is my
Yes, there's reason,
point.
but I think that's, but right,
Like,
but that's my frustration. It's like, what happened? Like,
couple of things.
where?
A, the takeover of our electoral system so that even registering to vote doesn't really matter. Like, the control of our politicians to the point where you don't even have the influence, even if you pressure them with organization, they just have more resources to organize. You know, like Halliburton can outspend your influence 10-1. You know, like, plus if you've read One Nation Under Blackmail, plenty of other ways to manipulate politicians on top of that. So with all the Epstein running around, you might get an idea, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then just think of the next organization you're going to talk about. What happened to them? What happened to its leaders?
Infiltrated.
And what happened? Literally sold out and put to the barrel of a gun by their own compatriots. Like, which I hope those people can't sleep at night. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I hope that at least there's a special circle in places for people like that, you know? But anyway.
So I think too of the Black Panther Party and their unapologetic commitment to protecting Black communities, even against the state. In a moment when mass agents detain people in public spaces without accountability, that legacy is not abstract. In Oakland, organizations like the Anti-Police Terror Project, Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice, and others are carrying that tradition forward, building community-led infrastructure to respond to violence, mental health crises, and emergencies without relying on policing or incarceration. We're also seeing communities build safety networks and protect one another in real time from ICE attacks. But resistance must also be imaginative. Revolution is both an art and a science. Art that avoids struggle or stays safely on the surface is not neutral. It participates in the choice of chaos. And we need our writers, actors, and artists connected to these fights, not necessarily to lead them, but to help people reimagine what is possible, to teach, to energize, to amplify the work, and to refuse capitulation to the demands of the capitalistic machine, which we talked about even last week. Not even the case anymore.
Yeah.
But here's Fred Hampton addressing this group. It's slightly longer clip.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna let him share.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll continue.
Let's do this then. Speed 1.25.
I'm the deputy chairman of the state of Illinois Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton. And a lot of people don't understand the Black Panther Party's relationship with white mother country radicals. A lot of people don't even understand that word that Eric uses a lot. What we're saying is that there are white people in the mother country that are for the same types of things that we are for stimulating revolution in the mother country. And we said that we'll work with anybody and form coalition with anybody that has revolution on their mind. We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism. And we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution because we're going to have one. We're going to have to do more than talk. We're going to have to do more than listen. We're going to even have to do more.
Why? Play the video.
We're going to have to start practicing, and that's very hard.
Let's just do this. Play.
We are for stimulating revolution in the mother country. And we said that we'll work with anybody and form coalition with anybody that has revolution on their mind. We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism. And we know that racism is just it's a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution because we're going to have one. We're going to have to do more than talk. We're going to have to do more than listen. We're going to even have to do more than learn. We're going to have to start practicing, and that's very hard. We're going to have to start learning, and you learn through practice. We got to start making mistakes, and you learn through making mistakes. We got to start getting out there with the people. And a lot of times we think we're better than the people, but that's an insult and that's criminal. Think you're better than the people. We got to get together and learn where it's at. It's going to take a lot of hard work. Education for children is something else. You ought to dig on it. Every sister in this audience. Now, every sister in this audience ought to get themselves together and come on down and help us with that Breakfast for Children program. You ought to come down and help feed them children in the morning. We have Breakfast for Children because we teach the people through practice, through observation and participation, that people can be fed free. That's the people thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself. We know they have our pictures. We know they're looking for us. We know they want us. But we're still saying that even though we could be, in a sense, as far as this system goes, on the mountaintop, we in the Black Panther Party, because of our dedication and understanding what's in the valley, knowing that the people in the valley, knowing that we originally came from the valley, knowing that our flag is the same flag as the people in the valley, knowing that our enemy is on the mountaintop, our friends are in the valley, we say even though it's nice to be on the mountaintop, we're going back to the valley. I be in the office every day. I be in the streets propagandizing every day. I be working with everybody every day. I be teaching that solidarity is the thing. The end of a complete wipeout of imperialism is the thing. So if you're going to be thinking about me, that's what Bobby would be teaching. If you're going to be thinking about us, all we say is ain't no thing about going nowhere, getting killed. All we want to know is that you're doing what we'd be doing if we were here. And you got to do that. You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it. In the spirit of liberation, we understand that they want everybody in the party in jail. And we know that if we try to figure out and separate and divide who should go and who shouldn't go, we spend more time doing that than working for the people. So the quick solution, the speedy one, nobody goes. Nobody goes. We all stay right here. With the people. Because we love the people. Okay, you can put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people. X power to those that we left out. We say Panther power to the Vanguard Party. When you leave here saying the last word, before you go to bed tonight, say, I am a revolutionary. Make that the last word. In case you don't wake up, then somebody might believe it and you might, end up in what they call a revolutionary happy hunting ground. Say that. I am a revolutionary. Say it when you're going out. Everybody, let's leave. Okay, we're going to say it while we're going out. And We're going to start a thing called Free Fred. Don't that sound nice? Hey, let's do that. Free Fred. Free Fred. Free Fred. Free Fred. Hey, I ain't even in jail yet.
What happened to him? I mean, there are reasons that happened. So,
Right. Well,
feel free to look those up.
So if the government is afraid of you, not afraid of you, you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
So, yeah. But, again, not that long ago, people were, not to say it was perfect, but I think more aligned. And now, not so much. Even though, ironically, it seems easier to, given the power of social media.
Well, see, that's the thing is like, look at what they're doing with Discord right now and other apps and Twitter and all these things that people were using to organize online. They're like, no. No, you can't be re-educating people like that, which was the Panthers' biggest organizational success. That and their mutual aid and their armed protection. Those three things, they definitely couldn't exist, you know? So be like, no, we got to deal with that. And then I think they just shut down all those avenues of change. Just be like, all right, we it's too easy. We can't let them work like that anymore, you know? So, but anyway, you got a little bit more, I think.
A little bit more, yep. There is another impulse we must name and refuse, the temptation to tap out, to disengage our frustration when others do not participate, do not vote the right way, or do not move fast enough. A person defeated in spirit will soon be defeated in reality, and forgetting that social change is a protracted struggle is a sure path to lost morale. History is often taught as a series of dramatic moments, a march, a speech, a bill signed into law. What gets erased are the decades of organizing that makes those moments possible. When people expect immediate transformation without understanding the long arc of struggle, disappointment is inevitable. None of our ancestors waited for mass participation before acting. They organized amid apathy, repression, and isolation. To abandon the work because others have not yet joined is not radical. It is a misunderstanding of how change has always happened. Here, the activist Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, offers needed clarity. Voting once every few years is not democracy. It is delegation. As Ture says, politics is daily. It lives in workplaces, schools, housing, and food systems. Resentment towards people who did not vote the right way is not political maturity. This moment requires building the conditions for participation, not shaming people for their absence, which, funny enough, he's saying this in this article because that's what I've been seeing. It's like,
which he's leaving out like the next paragraph on top of that, which is like, I don't vote. That's why I'm not a Democrat. You can't just vote on one day. Like, you know.
Well,
isn't that the rest of this?
Well, speaking of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure I remember.
For multiple times, but it's Black History Month. I get to do what I want. So we're going to do it again.
Why is it so quiet? Hold on. Let's, yeah, I know. It's super quiet. I'm fixing.
If you look at the Africans in the Democratic Party, now I'm not a Democrat. I've never voted in my life in the Democratic Party, and I never voted in the Democratic Party. It's racist and it's capitalist to the core. This is understood. And I shed my blood. I shed my blood for the vote now. I want to make that clear. Some people get confused. The vote for me has never been the road to liberation. It's only the means of organizing my people. I know that. I was a young man in Harlem when they disbarred Adam Clayton Powell. Harlem had no representation. We continued to eat and sleep and take drugs and continue life just like always. When Julian Bond was elected, when we were young and sick in Atlanta, Georgia, and they refused to see them because of the position against the war in Vietnam. The Africans in that area, his congressional district, continued life just as we've not been having any mayors, and we've been having life, and even with the mayors now, the quality of life has not improved at all. So I've known the vote is never what? You vote for once in 4 years, and that's your political responsibility? That's the height of bourgeois propaganda, making the people politically irresponsible, thinking their irresponsibility is limited to a one-day vote. But politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on, not voting on one day. So the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat. But one thing is clear. Jesse Jackson, undeniably, has done more for the Democratic Party than any other African in this country. This is an objective fact. More than Ron Brown, certainly. More than...
Yeah. Funny how you mentioned Jesse Jackson there. But you know, but as he said, just more of reform, which can lead to revolution, but revolution for reform without dealing with the core issue, that's the problem.
Right.
So, but
fixing
got a little bit more.
I had to turn off. I had to clean up. I had to enhance. I had to clean up all the audios. You know.
If you look at the
Hold on. Come on. Do the thing. There we go.
I have 3 more slides left. So, for the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, this moment requires taking our work to the next level and refusing to remain confined by what liberalism tells us is acceptable. As fascism actively dismantles the liberal world order we were told to trust, clinging to those limits is no longer strategic, it is dangerous. Too often we exhaust ourselves naming external enemies while ignoring the internal forces that limit our ability to build real power. Many of our organizations and many of us within them remain constrained by liberalism in ways that actively undermine our ability to win tangible gains for poor and working class communities. If we are serious about building multiracial, multi-generational power rooted in those most harmed by violence and exclusion, then we must be just as serious about outgrowing the frameworks that no longer serve this moment. And the work is already happening every day in communities across the country. There are organizations to join, movements to plug into, people already doing the hard, unglamorous work of building power. Each moment, it's an invitation to learn, to be imaginative, and to begin where you are. Movements are not born fully formed. They begin when ordinary people decide to act anyway. And maybe, just maybe, the work will be a little easier for those who come after us because you decide to begin. Now is the time to become the ancestors future generations will thank, to take place in history as people who stood against fascism and choose community over chaos. Hope matters to me. But one thing I've learned over the years is that hope without struggle is hollow, and struggle without hope is unsustainable. The truth is, hope ebbs and flows. There are moments when it feels abundant and moments when it feels distant. But whenever we feel hopeful or not, our responsibility does not change. What keeps me grounded is this. If political prisoners can continue to fight from inside cages, and if people experiencing genocide can continue to resist under conditions meant to break them, and I have a responsibility to keep fighting here in the United States, not because I always feel hopeful, but because the struggle demands it. Whenever the wind is pushing us forward or pushing us back, the task is the same, to fight. Some people say the will to fight comes from believing another world is possible. I'll add this. If you want people to have hope, get them into struggle, helping them win something real. Because hope doesn't just live in ideas, it lives in action, in collective effort, and in the knowledge that we're not facing this alone. So, overall, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
This article. And I get the premise, and I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to give some examples of the work that is happening.
Yeah, or has happened.
or
And
has
like,
happened.
I mean, it's just like, it always feels like a stretch to try to like compare the two, you know? But
I don't know. I just feel like, as I said, I think the main thing is this kind of sounds a lot for the work, while valid, it's just kind of seeming pretty much cookie cutter to me, which nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I think the key that we're trying to talk about now, and he mentioned it in the article, is how to get more people engaged who otherwise might be tuned out. Like, how can we get the single mom with 2 kids who is like struggling to
right.
organize? How can we get the rich people who are like living in the affluent area who, or for all intents and purposes, don't give a damn to help with organizing? How can we get those people involved? I feel like a lot of times it's usually, I don't want to say marginalized people, because that's not always true, but it's like always out of desperation that people are organizing, which in of itself is fine. But what about the people with means? Like, those, if anything, are the people that I think, in my opinion, need the most outreach because they're comfortable. Like, how can we make those people especially uncomfortable? And I say that because that's kind of what I'm dealing with now. Like, in terms of the places that I'm set aside, like, these people are comfortable and they're just like, oh, I'll just give money or whatever and just kind of be separate. It's like, no, we need you to engage fully and to be present fully. So I I don't hear that kind of talk at all, in part. So I think, if anything, for me, I would kind of like more examples of how to engage different groups of people, because a lot of this work just seems to be kind of tailored around the marginalized, which in of itself, fine, but we need, especially the people who are on the other side, who may not necessarily be, down and out, to also be engaged, or like the people who are just kind of in the middle to be engaged.
Yeah.
So it's just like, again, he just kind of pulled like, my guess is just a lot of inner city,
Sure.
like, which is happening anyway. That's been a thing.
That's been a thing.
And like, right. The thing is, like, we need more people with the means to actually be a part of the work. So how can we engage those people? I think that's kind of what I think is missing from a lot of these conversations.
And just with the
Not
questions,
just being online, being a commentator,
right?
Actually get engaged in the work.
Yeah. Which, like, to me right now, like, it's like we get told, well, why aren't you organizing? Well, I'm educating, it's like I'm trying to, like, I'll push towards organizations that I think are effective. I don't see that right now. And that's my problem, is like, what does effective modern organization that isn't compromisable? And, even in this, he talked about the liberalism seeps into this. And it's like, well, how do you stop that from happening? How do you keep yourself on the right course? Pressuring politicians, I don't know if that's effective anymore. Like, the outreach and visibility that used to pressure doesn't work anymore either. Like, it's difficult, and there's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And like, I think a lot of people just like the flowery nature of it, like, it sounds like the right thing to say, but then they don't know how to actually be effective with that. And that's what I'm looking for. I would like effective means for change that can happen quickly. It's like we're running out of time for a lot of this. So they felt like that then. They felt like they were running out of time. So, it's past due. But anyway, anything else you got to add?
No, that's it.
Cool. Well, YouTube allegedly remonetized us. I don't know how long that's going to last. So if you want to get around that system anyway, like we were doing, you can go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network and scan that QR code on your screen and refuse to give YouTube free 30% of your money. you know, we appreciate getting all those dollars ourselves, and so that you know what they're going to. And allegedly, you can like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video. They've allegedly removed our shadow banning to some degree, so if you share this, it might actually be seen. And leave a comment if you're watching. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching.